Okay. So we are in the major prophets, and so we did Isaiah, Jeremiah, and then we also touched on Lamentations. We did that, and now we're on Ezekiel. And so if you weren't there for these classes, the best thing is on YouTube. Even right now we're recording, is you can go on YouTube, and these should be in order, and it's not just the major prophet classes, it's all the other classes.
All the other classes, okay.
Yeah, and so you can do that while you're cooking, in the kitchen, the video is playing, you're listening, you're hearing everything, and so, you know, that way you can at least feel that you've caught up to a degree and know where things are. Yeah. And so we are in the book of Ezekiel. So we'll be going over, it'll be a bit of a synopsis covering a bird's eye view of what the book is about and what happens and what takes place. Any thoughts or any idea what takes place in the book of Ezekiel?
I know, only all I know about Ezekiel is a prophet.
Yes.
Actually, I don't know much. If I tell, I know I will be lying, and I don't know.
No, that's okay. Now it's quite a very it's a hard book to continuously understand, because in the book you have visions that are not easily interpreted. You're not sure where he's going or what's being said, but you are correct in the fact that he was a prophet and he was a priest. He was a prophet and a priest, and what happened is judgment came upon Israel and Judah, and King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, comes along, takes...
Somebody joining us.
Somebody is joining us. Hey! Hello, 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 hello. Actually, hello Samantha. I'll plug you in here. Today we have Ellen joining us for class. And while I'm plugging you in, you can maybe quickly grab your Bible, and we shall be going to the book of Ezekiel, and be a quick cover of that book. Okay, let's see if this works. Where are we at? How are you doing, Samantha? Good, good. So the book of Ezekiel. Excellent. Samantha, what do you remember about the book of Ezekiel? There she is.
He was, unlike the other prophets, like Isaiah and Jeremiah, he was prophesying from during the time that they were in captivity.
Yes.
Sorry. So it's got a different sort of tone.
Yes.
Different sort of, yeah.
Okay, alright.
I think I'm gonna shift.
You're gonna change around there? Maybe sit in that angle?
Yeah.
Alright, let me see. Eleanor is in the class today. I'll do that, and you can wave. Hey, you can see her. There she is.
Hello.
Hello. Good, you good. Right. So, if someone... Okay, so first, before we do that, is Isaiah was a prophet, and he was a priest. He was far from the temple, because obviously he's no longer in Jerusalem. He's been taken to Babylon. He's in captivity with the rest of the Israelites. He went to exile with the Israelites, and during that time, as he's a prophet, he's also a Hebrew. He's like a counselor. We lost her. That's okay.
Sorry.
Alright. We got you. And he was also like a Hebrew counselor. He was comforting the people. He was giving them hope and restoration, but he was also God's prophet. He kept preaching. He kept the hope. He kept the faith. And you have to, like, again, it's not like an easy situation to be positive, to be optimistic, telling people about hope, and God is there when you've been taken out of your land. You've been put and you've been enslaved by the Babylonians. You're far away from home, and you have someone preaching saying,
God is good.
God is good. Like, I don't want to hear that right now, Ezekiel. And so, nonetheless, God spoke to Ezekiel. God worked through Ezekiel. And the awesome thing is, despite being a priest, he had to do some temple duties, is that God still worked outside of the temple, because the Jewish people, the Israelites, were so used that if God is working, if God's speaking, we have to be around the temple. We have to be close to the temple. The priest has to be in the temple. But it shows that God is not tied down by the temple. He can work outside of that building. He can move all the way from Jerusalem and go all the way to Babylon and speak to Ezekiel. And so it was a way to show that God is not just tied down to that. And so sometimes, also, for some people's thinking is they think maybe the only time God speaks to me or works is when we're in church, when we're having a service. But he works outside of that. At your home.
Whatever station you are.
Yeah, wherever.
Be there.
Wherever you are, exactly. You don't have to be in a specific place. You could be driving and God can speak to you. God can work in your life. Now, there's two things that happens. There's judgment on Israel, of course, for their sins, but there's also judgment for the other cities around Israel. So God judges the Israelites and he judges the cities that are around the Israelites. But of course, the way most of the prophetic books are, there's restoration. There's a promise of restoration. I will heal your land. I will heal the people. I will restore them, and they'll come back to me. But one thing you can notice about Ezekiel with his character is, of course, he had to have a very strong relationship with God. Because in such an instance, it's very hard to even be prophesying about judgment while you're in captivity already to people. Like, people, you don't know if people want to listen to that at that moment of time. It's hard to preach about restoration and hope when you're chained up. And so he's saying, God has spoken this to me. But it's so funny is I'll just tell you some verses, some good things to look at. Is firstly Ezekiel chapter 8 verse 6. I'll read that there for you. Ezekiel chapter 8 verse 6. It says, He said furthermore unto me, Son of man, seest thou that what they do, even the great abominations that the house of Israel committeth here, that I should go far off from my sanctuary, but turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations. He says, abominations are taking place in my city. These are my chosen people, and they're sitting against me. But it says, even then, son of man, if you turn away, the abominations are even far much worse out there. And then it continues, says, so God...
My Bible says detestable.
The detestable?
Yeah, but you will see things that are even more detestable.
Yeah. Detestable, abomination, strong words. And those are the detestable. It's almost like you see something and it's so hard and painful to look, like you just close your eyes. I don't know if you've ever seen something. I think the worst thing is, one thing I can look at someone is when they break their bone. If they break their arm, like I'm just like, oh, I can't, like, ugh. And not because it just feels like I can't look at that. And God is telling Ezekiel, when you turn and you see the sins and you actually see them through my eyes, it's almost like, I can't focus on that. It's detestable. It's an abomination. And so this is what Ezekiel's having. But then God gives him a vision. It's so strange. He gives him a vision. He gives him insight as to what to tell the people. But I'll tell you this, in chapter 2, verse 3 to 8, in chapter 2, verse 3 to 8. Won't read it, but in that segment there, he tells Ezekiel that the people are most likely they will not listen to you. You will preach, you will prophesy, they will hear, but they won't listen. Alright, eventually everything you preach and you prophesy will come to pass because they won't listen.
Yeah.
And so it's very strange that God tells you, I want you to go prophesy and do this. But I just want to let you know, no one is going to listen. And I think it's a big point, and I think this one's the hardest one, because sometimes what happens, depending on what type of ministry you're in or where you feel God is leading, you feel that if God is leading me, it's going to be a success. But that's not always the case. You know, because sometimes God might just be developing our character. Sometimes God might just be wanting to grow us personally. Doesn't necessarily mean because God is leading us there that things are going to work out. It would be hard for me. Imagine saying, "Hey, go and preach."
And as people, because we want it there and there.
Yeah.
We don't want the process when God is molding us.
Yeah.
To get there, because it's like instantly.
Instant, yeah. We want that instantaneous God's leading, and so I guess maybe this is a hard lesson. Because God is leading you, there is a purpose and a plan, but sometimes we don't even understand or can see it right there and then. But so for me, when I read this, I'm thinking, Lord, if you want me to go prophesy, at least let them listen and do something about it. Because I would argue with God and say, well, what's the point of me going to tell them if they're not going to listen? Lord, but He says go for it and tell them. And sometimes that's how, like you said, that's how God works with us, and sometimes He's molding us and He's growing us. You know, it's like I remember when I was younger, one thing I used to ask to have problems with my teeth, and so when I used to have toothaches, I knew that if I talk to my mom, she's gonna be like. She'll give me some medicine like painkillers to take away the pain, because it's just like it's pulsating, it's hurting. But I know if I go and she gives me those painkillers, the next day she's gonna tell me I need to go to the dentist. You know, and then when I go to the dentist will look at that tooth. Then he'll look around and to check on the other teeth that need to be fixed. And that's the same thing with God. When we say, Lord, work in my life. You know, first He'll give us some painkillers to ease that, and we say, okay, that's enough, Lord. And the Lord says, no. Let's go to the dentist now. And then He fixes that one root, and you're like, that's enough, Lord. That's all. He says, no. Now look at the other teeth. Let's check these other parts of your life that we can fix as well and change. And we say,
we need a cleaning.
we need a cleaning. And you said the only thing, Lord, I wanted was some painkillers. And God says, yes, I'll give you that, but I can fix. I don't want to just fix this part here, but I want to fix everything. And that's what we do sometimes with God. We say, Lord, okay, you fixed it. That's it. He says, oh, now that I'm working in you, I don't want to just fix the one. You know, I want to work on this one, and that one, and this one. And you say, Lord, that one's not that bad. It's okay. He says, yeah, it's okay, but we can make it better. We can make it sharper. We can make it cleaner. And that's what God does in our lives.
Yeah, just not only the way we want it.
Yeah.
Because God sees better.
Yes, exactly.
Into us, like than the way we see ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. You know, what is it? It's like babies, you know, when we see them start talking for the first time, they're saying, Dada, Dad, you're happy. You appreciate, but you don't expect them for the rest of their life to go, Dada. Imagine today if the only thing I could say was Dada. You'd be like, it was impressive there. But now, or you know, when a baby starts crawling or walking stuff a little bit, you know, we're excited. But eventually we hope they can run better, they can walk without, and that's what God sees in our lives. He sees us crawling, He sees us walking a little bit, and He's pleased. But He says, now I want you now you can start running. Now you can start speaking in fuller sentences. But sometimes, again, not the way we want it is, I can crawl, Lord, that's enough. But He wants to push us more. Okay, so going to the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel has the most logical arrangement of any of the prophetic books. it's put well in order. It contains 3 sections of which address different subject matters. Chapters 1 to 24 concern the fall of Jerusalem. So when you're reading Ezekiel, chapters 1 to 24 concern the fall of Jerusalem. And then chapters 25 to 39.
1 to 24 first?
Yes, chapter 1 to 24 concern the fall of Jerusalem.
Okay.
And then chapters 25 to 39 contain a series of oracles addressed to foreign nations. And so one is for the fall of Jerusalem and the other is oracles addressed to the other nations. And then the third section, chapters 40 to 48, present a plan for rebuilding the temple and reorganizing the restored state of Israel. So it's the restoration of Israel, essentially. It's chapter 40 to 48 is the restoration of Israel. So 1 to 24, the concern for the fall of Jerusalem. 25 to 39 is basically judgment to the other nations. And 40 to 48 is the restoration of Jerusalem, Israel.
Is it Jerusalem, restoration of Israel or restoration?
Jerusalem is in Israel.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's like Glasgow in Scotland.
Scotland.
It's the land of milk and honey. Isn't that right? Yeah. The land of milk and honey. Isn't that right, Samantha? Right? That's what Scotland is. Everyone should be in Scotland.
Do you agree with that, Samantha?
All right, let's go. We'll go over some chapters here. Hopefully we got into chapter 24. Is in his so here in the beginning, Isaiah here receives a vision. He's 30 years old, so he's fairly young. 30 is not old, is it? It's fairly young.
Yeah.
Just at the age when a priest begins his ministry before the Lord. He has been in exile in Babylon since the second deportation, some 5 years before they settled his fellow countrymen in a district. Now, in his stunning vision, now I'm going to try and describe this vision he receives. In a stunning vision, a bright object rushes towards Ezekiel from the north. It is a great platform on wheels, borne by 4 living creatures. Seated on a high sapphire throne, under a sparkling canopy is a man-like figure which burns like metal fire. Ezekiel realizes that he sees the glory of the Lord and falls down on his face, right? And so he sees these creatures serving under something. He can't fully understand what they are. And you know what, in the Bible, when it describes angels, it doesn't describe them the way we traditionally think of them. They have like wings and they look like people. They don't look like that. They have like 6 sets of wings. Some have 4 faces. Some have like faces like animals. It's scary stuff, honestly, if you ever see an angel. And what I love about this is it says when he sees something sitting on the throne, he can't really see what it is, but he knows it's the glory of God. Like, I don't know how or what that is like. Like, we say glory to God, we talk about his glory, but imagine actually seeing that. I don't know what, but it says when he sees it, the only reaction he can give is to fall on his face. And I don't know what it's going to be like when we're up there in heaven with the Lord. But I think sometimes our interpretation is like there's excitement, there's joy. But it seems like when the biblical characters even just get a little glimpse of the Lord, it shocks them so much that they don't know how to respond except fall on their faces and cry. You know, John, in the book of Revelations, even in the book of Revelation, He's on the island of Patmos, and he receives this vision. But in that vision also, he sees the glory of the Lord. He sees God. But the only way he responds is by falling his face and just crying because he couldn't handle it. And I don't know if we're gonna be up there at the first instant going, I think it's gonna blow us away. And just like, no, just crying on our faces. Because I don't think have you ever seen something purely perfect? I don't know what that's gonna be like. But it says John, Ezekiel, they see this, and the only response they have is just to go. I've never seen anything in my life that has forced me to just fall on my face and cry. I've never seen something so beautiful and just started, well, yeah, maybe it's happened to you, but I've never looked at something.
Yeah, there's those times you can see, you can have those tears, but for joy.
Yeah.
It's like you are not really sure that this is what you are seeing, or what you're like, you just cry, you just
you just cry. That hasn't happened to me yet, but I want to see something in this lifetime that I don't know how to express it properly. I just cry. That hasn't happened yet to me. Has it ever happened to you, Samantha? No? Okay. Now, in all honesty, there's so many interpretations as to what this vision is. I feel like it cannot be fully understood. But the four living creatures who serve God have faces representing created life. Each face standing for its highest expression: man, wild animals. One has the face of a lion. Domesticated animals, ox. The birds of the air, an eagle. And so the figure of God is glimpsed by Ezekiel, right? I think Ezekiel gets the most glimpse of who God is because even Moses didn't get that much. Moses got the back, just saw the back. But Ezekiel he sees not the face, but he sees the glory. I don't know what that is. I can't explain to you what the glory is. We don't have glory, but it's because we say we give God all the glory, but glory is part of. It seems part of God. Like you see it. I don't know how to describe, but you see it. Like you can physically see glory, and it throws off Ezekiel. And again, when we get up there.
Yeah, I think because of the connection he had with God, that is how he was able to see all that, to see his glory, to experience it. I don't know how to explain it. And I think that is the situation he was at that particular moment.
I would, if the Lord wants to show me his glory, go for it. I'll see it. But chapter 3, verse 1 to 27, right? So we're covering large sections here. Ezekiel eats a scroll on which God's words to rebellious Israel are written, right? This is literal, right? Ezekiel has a scroll written down of the rebelliousness of the Israelites, and he takes the scroll and he eats it, and he's literally internalizing the message God has given him. It's almost like us saying, you know how we say, have the word inside you, not just out here. It's almost like someone eating the Bible, like tearing a page and starts to eat it. And so this is what Ezekiel does. It's symbolic of him actually internalizing the word. He's a very strange prophet, but God uses him, which is also really awesome because God uses strange people. He's been appointed to be a watchman to warn the wicked. What's a watchman?
Someone who is guiding either a building or some other people doing something inside so that they can feel secure or something like that. Looking after. Looking or taking care of. would use that word.
Yeah. Traditionally, a watchman, what they did is they would stand on a high hill or somewhere in a high area, and they would be able to see all of the land. And if they saw any enemies coming to attack, the duty of the watchman was to shout and to warn the people that I can see from afar that the enemy is coming, so we need to prepare. And so God appointed Ezekiel, says, you're the one who sees everything, right? And so your duty is to warn the people. You shout and tell them, I see the rebelliousness, I see the sin, turn away from it, you know. But Ezekiel's call introduces two basic principles of ministry, right? The believer, that's us, that's you and me, the believer is to faithfully share God's message with others. But each hearer is personally responsible to accept or reject it. So you have the believer and you have the hearer. Technically, we're watchmen. We've been given the word of God. We've been given the message. We've received the revelation. But it says, as watchmen, we're to see this and share it and tell people about it. Now, it's up to the people what they do. It's not your job. But your duty is to make sure you get it out. Because a watchman would have failed his job by not warning the people about the impending doom. For us as watchmen, our duty to fulfill our job is to go out there and tell of the word. Tell of the gospel of Jesus Christ. What people do with it is up to them. You know, it says we plant, we water, but God gives the increase. You know, it doesn't say we don't plant, we don't water, and God gives the increase. We're the ones who plant the seeds. We're the one who waters the ground. But it's God who gives the increase. All right. Chapter 4 and 5. The prophet is told to lie on his side for a fixed number of days to represent the years of Israel and Judah's rebelliousness. Okay, so again, for almost a year, for over a year, Ezekiel lies on his side in obedience to the divine command. He either lies to the side on his right or on his left to represent the rebelliousness of Israel and Judah. Okay, so that's part of the prophecy. Now, it's strange. So now, look, number one, here he's eating a scroll to take in the message of God. Then he has to lay on one side for so many days, and then he has to lay on one side for almost a year to represent the rebelliousness on the sins of the Israelites and the people of Judah and Jerusalem. Now imagine, I naturally sleep on my side sometimes. It depends. I can sleep on my back, I can sleep on my side.
But I don't think you can go the whole night sleeping on one side. If you keep turning or rolling over.
Yeah, you keep, but again, imagine that was the prophecy. Like, that's what God told him. Like, you lay on one side for so many days. You lay on this side for your right hand side. And I'm thinking, what a ministry, eh? I don't know if I could lay like this all night. Oh, it even feels uncomfortable doing it.
Even before you fell asleep, you keep turning to find which is the most comfortable sides to sleep on.
Honestly, I think sometimes what happens when we read this, we just go over it, but then you think naturally this is not easy. It's not easy to stay on your side all night. And the beds were not comfortable back then. I don't think so.
It's not
We
easy.
had I know this is really random, but we had a patient and he was left on the floor for like ages, and the pressure like broke his ribs because he wasn't moving on one side. So like, imagine like how much pressure would have been.
Yeah,
he was an old man, to be fair.
Yeah.
But
Still, it would be, wow. Goodness. All right, at the end of the enacted siege, Ezekiel now shaves his beard and his head with a sword. The hair is divided into 3 parts to show the fate of Jerusalem's inhabitants when the city falls. 1/3 of the people will die of a plague, the other of a famine during the siege. Another third will be killed by the sword outside her walls. The last third will be scattered by pursued, will be scattered, but pursued by God and killed. All of this comes because the idolatry and the wickedness of God's people.
Wait, where are you reading?
Oh, no, I'm reading off some notes here. Sorry, 3 faiths.
Okay.
This is found in chapter 5, verse 1 to 17.
All right.
Yes, so the 3 faiths, chapter 5, verse 1 to 17. And so these are the 3 outcomes. So he's talking about the destruction of the people of God. One is through a plague. One is through famine. The other is through sword. And the other, God himself will pursue them and kill them. Right? And so I don't even know which one is better. To die of a plague, to die of hunger, or to die by God's wrath. Either one of those are terrible. But he does this by shaving his beard and his head with a sword. Then he divides his hair into 3 parts to represent the forewarning of the destruction. Again, a very strange way. So you have someone eating a scroll, you have him laying on his side, you have him shaving his head.
And what kind of a sword was it?
I know! I've never found a knife. I've never seen a knife sharp enough to shave your head. But I guess I'm sure there's one there. But that's Ezekiel right there.
Yeah.
Now chapter 6. We'll go to chapter 6. In chapter 6, Ezekiel announces the mountains of Israel that destruction is about to visit them. The altars and the idols built upon them will be torn down and defiled by the dead bodies of those who worshipped there. So God, in chapter 6, God is angry because the Israelites turned to idolatry. Again, maybe we may not necessarily fully understand this because we don't live in that kind of time where we're serving statues or wooden figures. But I guess maybe today in our time, you know what could be our idolatry? What we take a lot of our time and what we focus on the most.
Yeah.
We got television, TV. What did you put up there, Samantha? Yeah, we are. That telephone. Woo! Fixed on this thing. Fixed on this telephone. Guys, it's so scary. I had to do something. I noticed when I wake up every morning, the first thing my hand touches is this. I thought this is... And then I noticed I'd get out of my bed, I'd go to the toilet, and this is in my pocket. After that, I'm going to the kitchen to make food, and this is in my hand. I'm getting dressed, I'm getting showered and cleaned, that's in the toilet. I'm getting dressed, it's in my hand. And before I leave, I check to see if this is in my hand. That's a type of addiction right here, guys.
Yeah, sure.
And I thought, that's scary. I can't go all morning without touching it.
Yeah, and I always try to think, how was life when we didn't have this mobile phone?
Exactly, because there was a time where life, there was no this and people still survived. So anyway, don't worship this. That's the moral of the story. Chapter 8 to 11. What Ezekiel sees, there strikes a death blow to those who count in the existence of the temple to protect Jerusalem, and explains fully why the judgment come. God threatens and says, because there's only so much sin that God can